The question now is, what are the consequences of Arthur Andersen's lack of independence, their horrible fee structure, and their failing culture? One thing all of these companies have in common is that they failed under Arthur Andersen's watch. The best way to see how Arthur Andersen fell from their great pedestal is to look at some of these companies. One of the biggest, first of all, is Waste Management. Waste Management owned regional garbage collection and environmental companies. They saw, what they had to their advantage is they saw gold where other people saw trash. And that made a lot of people rich in the 1970s. And for that decade, wealth grew, but that didn't continue. Growth began to decline, and it especially did whenever they sought to grow internationally. They found unexpected competition, and to hide their failing status, they began to extend the lives of their garbage trucks and other assets on the balance sheet. That made income look harder than it really was. All the while, Arthur Andersen knew this was happening. The partner that was auditing Waste Management knew about this, like I said, and he went to a director at Arthur Andersen and asked if he should qualify the report. And the director told him no. Of course, what was most important to him was money. They wanted to keep the client. And he told them to call it unqualified, the opinion, based on the fact that it was immaterial. So what were the results of that? In 1998, Waste Management reset $1.7 billion in earnings, and Arthur Andersen, of course, would have to also pay the SEC. They paid an amount of $7 million. Another one of their biggest clients was Enron. Enron was brilliant. They were able to acquire massive assets and then make markets around those assets. Truly, they were brilliant. They began accumulating debt, however, and one way this brilliant top management saw a solution, they would create special purpose entities, and they would funnel all their debt into these special purpose entities, and that would hide the debt from the balance sheets. One thing they also started participating in was stealing. What they did was they put all millions and millions of dollars into these special purpose entities that they controlled, and then stole obviously from stakeholders. Arthur Andersen also knew the risks involved with this. They had several meetings where they were displeased with Enron, and all they did was charge more for the risk they assumed with keeping Enron on as a client. And in 2001, Enron also collapsed, and they would declare bankruptcy at a rate larger than any company had before. The last company we'll look at is WorldCom, also the biggest failure that would occur under Arthur Andersen. At their prime, though, they were the nation's second largest long-distance telecommunications company. Management with them, as with the others, they were cooking the books and improperly accounted for $9 billion in assets and expenses. And in 2002, they declared bankruptcy with $107 billion in assets. Go to the next slide. In this graph, we see two things. Andersen was able to generate 2 to 4 times what they earned in audit income alone by charging for non-audit services to their clients. The other thing we see is how much Arthur Andersen was making, and so we see, well, I think we understand two things also from the two things we learned, and that is Arthur Andersen cared a lot about money, as we've said before. Just in 4 clients alone, although they were their riskier clients and their largest, this represents over $70 million just from these 4 clients. And the other thing they didn't care too much about was independence. Just because of that 2 to 4 times more income that they're earning from the non-audit fees in relation to a lot of the time they spent outside of the company participating and being seen in public in non-independent situations, We learned that that also wasn't too important to them, and another reason why Arthur Andersen collapsed. Please tell me I'm done.